Hi, my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Catron's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Catron's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Catron's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636. Locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Catron's Glass, the clear choice.
Welcome to the BeTempered podcast, where we explore the art of finding balance in a chaotic world.
Join us as we delve into insightful conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience.
We're your hosts, Dan Schmidt and
Ben Spahr.
Let's embark on a journey to live our best lives.
This is BeTempered.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to BeTempered podcast, episode number
14.
14. Here we go. What good weekend this past weekend?
Good weekend. Last weekend of baseball, so it was a very good weekend.
We've only been playing like 400 games.
Yeah, we try to double the MLB season to really prepare these kids. So, yeah. And, of course, Monday started football, so now we're in football conditioning and, no breaks, no rest for the weary.
And that's okay. That's what we want. Keep those kids busy, keep them out of trouble, and keep them learning. And,
like Coach Kelly says, have them compete. I want the kids that compete all the time.
That's right. That's right. Well, welcome everybody. We have an exciting episode today. We have done one Zoom episode, I guess, with Sean Eddy out of Dallas, Texas. But today we have a very special guest.
Very special.
Someone you know very well, Ben.
Yes.
Can you introduce her?
Yep. So it's my honor to introduce one of my best friends, in school. She was one that always just believed in herself and believed in her beliefs. And we, adulting, you kind of fall away. And then all of a sudden we went church hopping one day and look who was there. It was one of my good friends. And so my family and her family got to grow close together. And I'm just so thankful that God brought us back together. And she's literally probably one of my best friends. So without further ado, here she is, Kelly Daniel.
What's up, Kelly?
Thank you. That was like the intro.
Yeah, that's what I do, And I forgot to say that she is actually farther than Sean Eddy was. She is all the way in Arizona.
Yes, where it is like the devil's armpit right now.
What's the temperature?
Let's see. Today, I think we're getting up to 103. Yesterday, we were at like 109, but we've gotten away from the 115s, 116s, so that's a little better. At least we don't have humidity, though,
Yeah, that's about the same as Ohio.
Yeah, at the end of the day, heat is heat.
It is pretty warm. Especially watching, like you were talking about, we've got, our son is in football, and so we've been at all the football practices, sitting outside, trying to not die while we're watching him play. We're like, go hard, buddy. And I'm sitting over there like, I'm sitting and I'm dying,
Him with all of his pads on, run up and down the field.
Yeah, I'm like, work harder. Man, I need another fan.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Kelly, we had a conversation last week, I think it was, on the phone, and Ben has obviously told me a lot about you and your story and all you've been through. And we are certainly grateful that you're willing to come on here and tell your story, because it's very impactful. And I think you recognize that and you understand that. And that's the whole motto of the BeTempered podcast, is going through a fire, but coming out stronger because of it. And I think what people are going to find today by hearing your story is you embody that. And so for those that don't know you, can you tell us about your childhood growing up and tell us a little information?
Sure. So let's see. I am the youngest of 4 kiddos, and my parents were incredible parents. We had such a solid upbringing of love and compassion and faith. My dad was a military guy, was an Army band guy, and then did the pastor thing for a little bit. And then eventually his ministry became being a band director all over the country. and one of the best in the biz. He still has, a bunch of people calling him, and he gets to go to all these conferences and stuff. He's just a really incredible man, full of wisdom, and just one of the best musicians in the world. My mom was an incredible musician too, so we grew up with so much music in the house. And like I said, youngest of four, so it was loud and rowdy. 2 sisters and a brother, and I did a lot of growing up in Miami, Florida, with a lot of different culture and everything there. And then my parents moved us to Ohio, and the school we ended up at was New Lebanon, which is where Ben went to school. So we went from a ton of culture to a very small farm community. And so it was a little bit of culture shock for us, but it was such a great childhood, and we had incredible community there. And still, like Ben said, he's one of our closest friends in our family. And then my best friend from growing up, Kelly, Travis, yes, another Kelly. Best friends, and we were both Kellys. But she and I have been friends since we were 9, and she's still my go-to person. So, Ben and Kelly have been people that have been long-term in our lives. And anyhow, so grew up that way, and in church, always behind the scenes. My parents were always serving in ministry. We were always serving in ministry. I've been singing in church since I was 3 years old. I started leading worship when I was in middle school, and then started doing it part-time vocationally at 18. And then now it's my whole everything. It's my ministry, my passion, my career, and a gift. So I'm an ordained minister, and I'm a creative arts pastor out here in Arizona. And I still pinch myself every day that I get to sing and praise God and love on people and get paid for it. Like, it's kind of unbelievable that this gets to be my job. Like, I get to love and encourage people and sing, and it's mind blowing that that's my life.
It's awesome. I remember growing up, you were in the band, I believe at Dixie, you can be in band and choir. And it's insane because she has probably one of the best voices you'll ever hear. And so that's always funny to me.
And that's pretty awesome that you kind of are following in your parents' footsteps, right? You kind of, just carrying on that tradition. And that's pretty cool. You said Miami, Florida, and Arizona. So I would guess the temperatures are similar. So you were kind of conditioned for that, right? A little bit?
Yeah, totally. But going from the high humidity, high mosquito, Miami, Florida, then to the high mosquito, high humidity, but lower temperatures of Ohio, and then out to, like I said, the devil's armpit with no humidity. But I gotta be real, guys. Like, it's shocking, but Brad, my husband, and I were just talking about this last night. Like, it's shocking. Everybody always teases you before you come out, and they're like, it's a dry heat. It's not bad, but it really isn't that bad. Like, it's really nice because you can breathe. You're not like instantly soaked. It's not like getting out of a shower and feeling like, do I need another shower immediately?
Yeah.
So it's pretty great. And you get 9 months of the year is like perfect weather with the windows and the doors open. So, it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So you're in New Lebanon, Ohio, and you go through high school. Did you graduate from Dixie?
So no. So funny story. My dad, in true Ron Nelson form, was very obedient to the Lord, even when it was challenging. And so my junior year, he was feeling called to go and be a band director at another school, which was actually Oakwood. And so for him to go there, I would have had to pay to go to that school because it wasn't open enrollment, or I could have paid to go to New Lebanon, or I could go for free to the school that we lived in the district, which was Northmont High School. And so I was like, we're going to pay for college next year or 2 years, whatever. So I'll just go to the public school that's local. And so I was leaving my friends of, let's see, since 5th grade to junior year. I had this squad of friends and family, and, we were tight unit, basketball together, track together, band together, everything. And then I had to leave for my graduating year, and I went from a graduating class of 72 or 74, I think. Am I right, Ben?
Yeah, I think it was 72.
Yeah, and then to a graduating class of 540. Ooh. And so it was a pretty big shift. But I teased my dad before we went to school, and I was like, I better find my husband or something. And then I totally did meet my husband my senior year. So it was all worth it. And I let him off the hook now because it was worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you graduate from Northmont. What's next for you?
Yep. So next up, I went to University of Dayton, and I was doing music performance there, and was gonna work on some music therapy and things like that. I just have such a passion for music and what music can do for people, and how it can help and impact people. It's amazing because music has the innate ability to invade your heart and mind without permission. You don't have to decide that music is going to move you. It just does. And it's always been this, love language for me with the Lord. And so I just wanted to use it however I could. And so I was going to school for that. And I had struggled my whole life, from the time I was a teeny little kid. I always had a lot of health issues. A lot of different autoimmune stuff. I had something called endometriosis. I had something, I had asthma, real severe, and actually almost lost my life a few times in middle school and high school. Ben probably remembers that. And yep. So a lot of hard roads there. But when I got to college, I was actually I was assaulted by a person of authority, and it completely shifted the trajectory of everything. I thought French horn, I thought music performance that way was going to be my career, was going to be how I impacted the world, how I, made, my career, and suddenly everything was flipped on its head, and I was already sick, and then I got attacked while I was sick, and then it was like everything just felt like it was imploding on me. And so I went from struggling in and out of the hospital to also having this moment and crisis of faith and crisis of identity, because, French horn, and I'd been playing with the Dayton Phil Youth Orchestra and doing all of that. And so I'd gone from, this is a big key part of my identity and who I am and how I'm going to impact the world. And then being too sick to play and having the assault happen, then it was like, oh my gosh, who am I? And does God care about me? And did he abandon me? And what do I do now? And so it was a really jarring flip for me, especially. I've always been somebody who is really positive, and my family calls me the joy warrior. Kelly, the name Kelly means warrior. And so they always just said, oh, you're the joy warrior. Cause I'd be like, oh, everything's falling apart. It's fine. We'll be okay. Let's just keep going. And that was the first time in my life I just could not find the joy anywhere. And I was scrambling. I didn't know which way was up. And so it was kind of a full stop moment in your life where you think you're headed in a really healthy direction. And I knew who I was. I knew what my faith was. I knew what I was going to do with my life. I knew I was going to make a difference. I have a cousin actually who struggles with autism, and part of what I wanted to do with my French horn, I wanted to somehow develop this like Boys and Girls Club kind of, but with music, because people who have autism and mental and physical struggles, they actually can really connect through art. And so I was like, oh, this will be awesome. This will be a way to give back to somebody in my family. This will be a way to give back, to friends in school. Like in school, I was always the person who helped the kids who needed some extra time or who had those struggles. And so I had this beautiful dream in my head that I felt like was such a God-given plan. And I was like, I'm being faithful. I'm following God. I'm doing something with the gifts he gave me. Like, this is going to be amazing. I'm working my butt off. And like, I've overcome all this sickness. It's going to be great. And then the assault happened and it was like, what? Like,
Right.
Now I don't know what to do with anything.
So this happens, you're what, 18, 19, 20 years old?
18.
And you've got, all these visions of what you're going to do and these great things you're going to do in your life. You're so strong in your faith. That happens. How do you get through that?
A lot of prayer and a lot of time really just digging into God's word. It was my family sat me down and was like, you're not okay. And the first step was accepting that I wasn't okay, because I didn't want to accept it. I was Kelly. I was always going to find the joy, and I was always going to suck it up, buttercup, and move through it and fight it. And for the first time in my life, I could not find the joy. I could not find the light. And I really, truly struggled with, okay, God, did you truly just leave me here? Like, did you just let go of me? And everything I had experienced until then, years of chronic pain, years of sickness. And I had decided that God was who he said he was. And I had seen him show up. I had seen him provide. I had seen him, help me through the darkest times of my life. And I had to decide again. It was like, okay, is God who he says he is? And is he going to be there for you? And has he been there for you through this? Or is everything you know about him a lie? And so it really was this just deep dive into, honestly, Job was always my dude in the Bible. I always went back to Job. I'm like, me and Job, we're connected, And so I went back and read through Job again, and my parents got me into counseling, and I was on some antidepressants for a little while just to kind of help me get over the curve. And man, with a lot of support from my family and a lot of support from, friends and counseling, I finally was able to get to a point where I could see the light again, and where I decided, okay, my God really is who he says he is. He didn't change just because my circumstance did. This is a broken world. And I eventually, thanks to my husband, who at the time we had just started dating a little bit. And, he was such a gift to me, not in that time, but always. He's just an incredible man. But he was able to help me get to a place where eventually I was able to forgive that man, and be able to, my processing went from, man, I hate him, to, man, my heart is so broken for him. Like, that is so heavy that he's going to have to face God. He's going to have to face up to what he has done. And that must be so heavy to have to carry that brokenness around. And so it really shifted things. It took the pressure off of me. It was no longer my shame to carry. It was, God's going to get me through this. And it was, man, I want to pray for that man's heart and soul, because he's in a really dark place and he doesn't even know it. So it shifted a lot, and it shifted a lot of how I process life.
I got to say, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you can go through what you went through as a kid with the health issues, and then to, go off to school and have an assault happen, and then to hear you say that you forgive. And, that's, Jesus is all about forgiveness, right? But it's easier said than done. And to have something so impactful happen to you in your life at a young age, and to question things like I think anybody would at that stage in their life, But to get through that and then to forgive, I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah. The power of forgiveness is amazing, but the faith it takes to forgive somebody, especially, you know, like what you went through, Kel. I mean, it's just, I can't imagine, you know,
powerful.
I remember sitting in church. I didn't know about any of this until it was one Sunday at church. I was just sitting there and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I remember when watching the video that you did at church, and just like, I was literally crying, because it's like, no, that couldn't happen to Kelly. That wouldn't happen to, you know what I mean? Like, bad things always happen to good people. And I just remember how it hit me that day, because I never knew it. And I was mad that I wasn't there to like help. And then then at the end of the video, you talk about the same thing you just did, like the power of forgiveness. Like, I chose to forgive him, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it takes a special person, and it's just amazing.
And I think it's so important for people who are listening, who are carrying a burden, you know, for someone who's done something wrong to them, whether it's as to the extent that, Kelly, that you have went through, or even smaller, pettier things that people just hold grudges on, to take a step back and to forgive. Because I think, like you said, Kelly, you're the one that was holding that in. You know, you're the one that was holding that, you know, hatred or anger or whatever you want to say towards this man. But when you were able to forgive, that's when your life changed for the better, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it's one of those things. I think it was Corrie ten Boom who forgave somebody who had been working in the, you know, internment camps, and she said, "It wasn't me that forgave; it was the Holy Spirit in me, working through me." And that, like, I will never forget hearing that, because for me it was, you know, I felt I had this right to hold on to this anger and this hatred of this man. Of, no, he wronged me, and he broke something in me, and I didn't deserve it. I didn't do anything. And like, working through the shame of like, it wasn't me. But even beyond the shame, I just kept that hatred so heavy in my heart. And then getting to a place where, as I'm reading scripture and I'm reading God say, pray for your enemies, and I'm reading, you know, the end where Jesus is on the cross and there's two, you know, criminals next to him, and one's like, "Hey, will you remember, you know, you are the Christ?" And he's like, "I'll remember you today." And it wrecked me, because it was like, okay, so me saying I'm not going to forgive this man, whether or not he asks for it or not, that's not the point. But I'm deciding that essentially my opinion of him is more important than like Christ, essentially. Like, I'm not, like, who am I to deny someone forgiveness when Jesus chose to forgive us all if we choose it, right? And so it was like, okay, if I'm going to walk around and say I'm a follower of Jesus, and if he says make things right, you know, don't hold something against your brother before you come to me, and, you know, no sin outweighs the other, and get the plank out of your own eye. And I'm reading all this stuff and I'm going, okay, Kelly, like, you cannot say that you're going to follow him wholeheartedly while holding on to this hate, because he also says hate is like murder, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I'm willing him dead in my heart, but I'm saying that I'm right with God. Well, that doesn't line up. And believe me, it doesn't, like, it's so easy for me to say now, you know, I don't even know, 14 or how many years is that? I'm like carrying the two.
You went to Dixie, don't know math like I don't.
Yeah, I got the smarts real good. No, but like, I'm like 20 years later, and it's easy for me to say that it all makes sense in black and white, and, you know, forgive. But I remember, like it was yesterday, the struggle of, I don't want to forgive. I don't want to forgive. Like, I want to be angry, because it was somewhere to put the energy and the pain and the shame. And it was easier in my mind. I thought it was easier that way. But as soon as I was able to come to that realization, as soon as, you know, the Lord softened my heart and I was able to forgive him, not for him, but for me, like I said, that's when everything changed. Everything changed, and it shifted my posture towards forgiveness completely. So then, from then on, everything was so much simpler to forgive, because it was like, okay, well, if I can forgive this horrible, ugly, vile thing, then who am I to not forgive that time my, kid talked back, or the time my husband said the thing that hurt my feelings for that 1 minute, or,
Mm-hmm.
it just all became really clear to me that one of the greatest things we can be called to as followers of Christ is forgiveness, because none of us deserve it, but all of us are given it freely. And so we've got to be the first to turn around and pass it out like candy, essentially,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's amazing, the power of forgiveness. And I think you just, everything you said just embodied that. So, you get through that point in your life, you talk about your husband, once you move past that and you start to live your life outside of school, what's that look like?
Well, this is where we start to say, put it on my tab, right? So, my husband and I get married in 2008. And it started off with a bang. So 2 days after we got married, we were driving down for a honeymoon, and my grandpa passed away. So we drove home for a funeral. A couple weeks after that, we found out I was pregnant, and we were so excited, over the moon, because doctors had told us it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, because I had struggled with endometriosis so bad. And so we were overjoyed. We got to 15 weeks pregnancy and miscarried the baby. And then a month after that, we lost 2 of his family members, extended family members. And then 2 months after that, we lost my grandma and my uncle within 2 days of each other. And then I was hospitalized with a couple surgeries for about a month. And then that was our first year. So it was like, welcome to married life.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, looking at you now, you're laughing at it. I mean, you got that positive energy. I mean, at the time, were you just like, oh my God, it's like a gut punch. You're in a boxing match and you take a left and a right, and then there's an uppercut, right? How are you getting through all that?
I mean, just guys, God and laughter. You know what I mean? Brad and I always say you got to laugh to keep from weeping. And don't get me wrong, we do a lot of weeping too. But it's, when you know that God's going to get you through it, you just go, okay, well, what's this adventure going to look like? And you lean on each other and go, well, this is not expected. And, at the end of that year too, my insurance, cause we had, just gotten married and whatnot, and our insurance decided to drop us. And so we were looking at $600,000 of hospital debt as 21-year-old, brand new married couple who we were flat broke, y'all. And it was just one of those where you're like, well, you're welcome. Here we go. And I mean, pretty much every day I'd wake up and be like, honey, I love you. And I'm sorry. Welcome to life with me. You're welcome. And I'm sorry, and then it just kept going. We ended up having 4 miscarriages total, over the next 3 years. And then finally got pregnant with our son, Levi, our first miracle baby. And when he was just about to turn a year, we found out that I was pregnant with our daughter, because they were like, hey, now that you got this, like, go again. If you want another one, you got to hurry up. We were like, message received, And so we were pregnant with Lainey, and the day that we found out we were pregnant with her was also the day we found out that Brad's mom was passing away. They found a tumor. They went in for a easy surgery. They said, this is like the best of the worst case scenario. Like, you just take it out, no big deal. And she had severe complications, and then ended up passing away. And so it was, again, one of these, like, we finally got to a pocket of joy, and then the rug came out from under us. And it was unbelievable, just unbelievable.
But yet you keep going, and you've got young children now, and life's moving forward. I mean, things don't stop, as you know, everything keeps going. So kind of talk about your kids in their younger years and what that looks like for you guys.
Well, they are wild and adorable. Our son, Levi, we call him the paint by number baby, because at about, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, he was already sleeping 6 hours through the night, and we thought we were the best parents. We were like, we're so good at this. Like, we got this sleep training. Like, I don't know why people are complaining. Like, this is amazing. And then Lainey came along, and we didn't sleep for 18 months. And so we learned pretty quickly that it was not about us. It was just, they were very different kids, and he was just a really easy baby. So that was nice and humbling, Yeah. And then let's see, we got to, Lainey was maybe 2.5, and I was at a global leadership conference, the Global Leadership Summit. And I had still been working part-time in the church and just doing that, like on staff, but just on the side. And it was still just the way that I served my community, but I didn't think, that was going to be my job or anything like that. And I just remember having a moment and praying and processing with the Lord after one of the messages. And I felt nudged to like step up and take more of a role. And I just remember having this like conversation with the Lord of like, I prayed for these kids for 18 years and they told me I wouldn't have them, and I have them. And like, I want to be home. I want to take care of them full time. And, that was my plan. I was like, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? I am the queen of making all the plans that fall apart. I'm like, I'm going to have the perfect plan. And then it all just, goes to crap. Anyway, so I'm having this like wrestling match with the Lord, and I almost audibly, not quite, but very loudly in my spirit, it was like, those are my kids, Kelly. Those are my kids. I've given you authority and leadership over them, but those are my kids, and I have a plan for them. And so if I'm calling you to do something, you're to be obedient, and you already know I've got something for them. And it was this holy brokenness that just shifted everything for me again, where it was like, okay, I'm called to give more and to be obedient in this way, and stop. Delayed obedience is disobedience, right? And so I had to have this moment of, okay, I'm going to stop disqualifying myself, because until that moment, I had I'm too sick. I had I'm just a girl. I had I have an assault in my history. That's yucky. That's shameful. Nobody's going to want that. They're going to doubt me. And I had I'm a young mom. And so in my mind, I'm disqualifying myself left and right. Like, nobody's going to be able to rely on me. Nobody's going to want to trust me in a leadership role. Nobody's going to want my opinion or my perspective. Why would I do this? Why would I go and do that? This is not my place, And so I really had to wrestle with that and listen to what the Lord was prompting me to do, instead of what, I was fighting with internally. And so I did. I went through the steps and started going through the ordination process and things like that. And of course, as soon as I step up to do all those things, we ran into another brick wall. And 2017, so my daughter was almost 4, or had just turned 4. My son was 5. And I woke up one morning and I heard my husband out in the kitchen, and he is always on time, right, Ben? I mean, that man,
always.
he's 20 to 30 minutes early everywhere. It's obnoxious.
20 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
To be early is to be on
Exactly.
time, and to be on time is to be late.
Absolutely.
Well, for some of us who are creatives, on time is on time. Or 5 minutes after is still on time, you know? So anyway, so he was in the kitchen and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is an hour late. Like he should be at work. Like what's going on? So I like walk around to the kitchen. And as I like fell into the wall and I was like, that was weird. And he's like, are you okay? So he like took me over to the couch and laid me down. And it was truly just by the grace of God that he was late that day, because within a matter of 15 minutes, I was completely paralyzed from the neck down. To say that is the most terrifying moment of my life would maybe be an understatement.
So 1 minute you're the night before you go to bed and you're able to walk and do everything normal, and the next morning you wake up and here you are, your husband's helping you on the couch because you lose feeling. I mean, Kelly, I know how this story continues and you're going to tell it, but hearing everything that's happened to your life at this point, I can't help think, wow, why has God put you in this situation again? And in your mind, how are you going to get through it? So talk about, you're laying on the couch and this is going on. What's going through your mind?
So honestly, the first moment was, don't let Brad freak out, was my first thought.
Yes.
My first thought was, it's okay, honey. Everything's okay. And as the paralyzation is creeping up at the beginning, it was hard for me to move my face. My face like slouched almost as if in a stroke. And so I wasn't really moving much. And our friend Mimi, our bonus mom, she came over to help take the kids. And at first I told him, like, don't call the squad, like just get me in the car. And when they tried to stand me up and realized that it was complete paralyzation, like I couldn't feel, I couldn't move, they were like, we've got to call the squad, like something's happening, we have no idea, and then the squad got there, and of course they're going to move me onto the stretcher. And I said, sorry guys, diet starts tomorrow. Because again,
It's Kelly.
from weeping, so I'm in fight or flight survival mode. And my whole thought process is keep it light, because this is traumatic. And oh my gosh, keep people laughing. And no one thought I was funny except for me. So, we got in the ambulance, and when I tell you, there have been five separate times in my young adult and adult life that I nearly lost my life with asthma or with the endometriosis when I was, having a lot of trouble with bleeding and things. And this was the first and only time I had a moment of, this could actually be it. Like I could actually be going home today. I could actually be going to see Jesus today. And I'll never forget having the moment in the squad. The EMT guy is, stay with me. And I can hear him wrestling stuff around and there's stuff beeping. And I just felt this incredible weight on my chest. And I came to find out later that it was, my muscles in my lungs were struggling. And so I'm sitting there, and I just remember having this conversation with God and going, okay, Lord, like, I'm good with you. Like, I know you're my savior, and I love you and I trust you. And if this is in your plan, like, I'm at peace. And then I just remember saying, but please, please not yet. I just remember saying, you know, I feel like my family needs me. I want to be here with them. And so if I can stay, please. And I just remember the weight on my chest feeling like it shifted. It felt like it went from being snuffed out to like when you have a strong, sturdy hand on you that steadies you. And then my breathing just leveled out. My heart leveled out. And I never lost my breathing. Never. And even in the hospital, all the doctors, all the nurses, they couldn't get over it. They're like, it's a miracle once they figured out, you know, what it was, that it was, took about 3 days to get a diagnosis, that it was Guillain-Barré syndrome. And they were just shocked. They just kept saying, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We never have somebody get paralyzed to the neck and keep their breathing and be able to keep talking and not need to be intubated. And the guy that did the testing that finally figured out the Guillain-Barré syndrome. Do you remember this, Ben?
Yep.
Yeah. He's like, so what? He's like, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, well, I'm a worship leader at my church. And he said, oh, that's why you still have your lungs. You don't mess with a church singer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
I remember that. And I also remember in the ambulance, I believe they said they couldn't understand why you could keep your breathing and everything like that while you're still breathing. And you remember what you said to them?
No.
You said, because I know who I am. I'm a child of God. I remember I forgot about that until I was reading the other day, and I read when your sister remembered you saying that. And that's always stuck in my mind.
Yeah. And I forgot. And I told him, the doctor, he said, this doesn't make sense. I said, yes, it does. Because I know this guy. His name is Jesus. Mm-hmm. And my girlfriends made me shirts for while I was in the hospital, because it was, what followed was months of being in the hospital, months of physical therapy, inpatient therapy, treatment, everything. And so they made me all these shirts that said, I know this guy, his name is Jesus. And so every time I would go to like inpatient therapy, I had this big shirt that was like a billboard for my faith. And the nurses ended up naming my room the Joy Warrior Room. And we had candy and snacks, and people would come in. Do you remember this, Ben? They would just come in and start dumping out their life story. Like they would just walk in the room and just share their life story for no reason. And every time, my husband would just look at me like, did that just happen again? Like, is this happening? Like, what is happening? And it was almost this holy moment of, you're on mission. You know, it was this, for us, it was this huge crisis moment. It was this life-altering trauma that changed forever. My kids changed forever. My faith, my husband's faith. But it was also this beautiful gift of being able to love on people that I never would have met. And being able to hear their stories, being able to share with them why I was okay, even though I wasn't okay, you know, and man, like, talk about, you guys get it, with a glass company and BeTempered, like going through the fire is one of the most terrifying and excruciating things. There's so much pain involved. There's so much, fear even. But like when we got to the other side, like, man, our faith and our marriage and our family unit, like, you can't touch it with a 9-foot pole, we know who we are, and we know that we are his kids. And we know that, like, my husband and I have such a strong marriage. And I honestly, looking back at every single bit of fire that we've walked through, everything that was put on our tab, I wouldn't change a single bit of it, because I would not know how to trust God the way that I do without it. And I've never seen God let any of it be wasted. He's never let any of it be wasted. The amount of times I've run into people who have had miscarriages, who didn't have anybody to talk to, and I was able to relate with them and listen to them and just show them empathy and understanding. The amount of people who have struggled with family loss or, assault or anything. And it's not because I had all these answers. I didn't have any answers. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not like some, I am not some brilliant communicator. I am just a real person who has been through a lot, who by the grace of God is still here. And I'm just so thankful, because without all of it, like I wouldn't have the joy that I have without all the fire that I had to walk through.
And I going back, and it's, you talking about when you first went on the couch, or you were on the couch, and the main thing you could think of was, I got to keep Brad calm. Like, don't freak out, Brad. And I remember, I think it was when you were on the way in the ambulance and you got there, and then Brad called me and he let me know what was going on. And it was just sitting there trying to listen. And what do you say to your, one of your best friends when your wife's going through that? And I remember, those nights that after work, I'd go by the hospital just so Brad can like vent, you know what I mean? And come outside, and then we knew that he wasn't going to eat the hospital food. So,
he wouldn't.
No, I don't blame him. But so I remember being out in the hallway and him just being like, I don't know, I can't imagine if that was Lisa, right? And not knowing, how long was it before you said they figured it out?
So it was 3 days till they had a diagnosis, but it was 3 years till I was back walking.
And then, if I remember right, there was a whole thing with trying to get you and the insurance company and everything with going to, was it UC?
Yeah. Going to University of Cincinnati. We went to Cleveland Clinic. They had us all over the place, and getting everything approved was brutal.
Yeah. And I remember just going through that whole process, and like, I as strong as Brad is, as strong as you are, and you guys are trying to navigate what's going on with my wife. Why is insurance that we pay for not covering any of this? Why aren't we going to UC? Where are the answers? And you guys not knowing the answers, but still you're sitting there and you're basically being the hands and feet of Jesus right there. You couldn't feel your hands and feet, but you're still being the hands and feet of Jesus in the hospital bed, right? It's just insane. And, and then you figure, at that point was when it really hit me what, a church family actually is. When we moved to Eaton, people are like, why are you still going to Clayton or Inglewood to go to church? And it's like, you don't understand until you're actually part of a family, like that you're sharing life together. We talk about life groups and everything like that. You don't truly understand what a church is meant to be until you're in one of those tough times, and everywhere you turn, there's other people from the church and they're trying to pour into you. And I just remember how tight it was in there. You had worship services like basically in your hospital bed.
We did, yeah.
And the thing is I feel like each step of the journey that you've taken, God prepared you for something else to help somebody else, tenfold of what you went through. Like, you figure your miscarriages, Kelly, you helped her through everything that she dealt with. And with Justin being overseas, like that gave you strength to help Kelly through that as well. And Kelly will say, Kelly, you two are the same people. There's nobody that's yin and yang. You guys are just the best of friends. But I feel like each one of you guys have always been able to balance each other out. And I feel like it's your different life events you go through that really give you that opportunity. And, God gave you Brad, God gave you Kelly to get through all this and be anchors as well. And I feel like that gives you the opportunity to be you, of always joyful, because they're going to worry about you. You just got to be joyful.
Yeah, I know, man. I sound terrible. Like all the people around me are super worried. I'm like, it's fine, guys. Whatever.
That's what I do.
It's what I do. I just deal with crap. But you're totally right, Ben. Like every situation leading up to the Guillain-Barré stuff, it's like if I hadn't experienced those moments and the moments of crisis of faith of, do I really believe God is who he says he is? Do I really trust him? Like, had I not been through all of those leading up, I don't know if facing that Guillain-Barré, if I would have been able to have the faith that I had, because I mean, that it was so life altering. I mean, each thing that we went through was life altering, but it was like everything built up this endurance and built up this, character. It's my favorite verse, Romans 5:3-5 verses. We rejoice in our suffering, knowing suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because of the power of the Holy Spirit in us. And it's like, if I hadn't been through all of the things that built that grit in me, not just personal, but in my faith, grit in my faith of, no, I know who God is. Like, you're not going to tell me my God isn't for me, no matter what I face, and Ben will tell you, I'm a little bit obstinate. I was, what was my nickname in basketball? I don't even remember. Something
I don't remember. I just remember you were an elite defender. Nobody was giving any space if Kelly Daniel was guarding them.
Yes. So I'm friendly and sunshiny unless we're having a competition, but there was a grit that was built in me through the trials, a grit in my faith that just, it changed everything, and I think that being able to build that up and for God to have allowed me to endure so much and have been gracious enough as he was to allow me to see his goodness in it. Like the mercy and all of it was, he always let me see somebody impacted from it. And that gave me just enough hope to get to the next, wall. Mm-hmm. But without all that, I don't know that I know that I would not have been able to face what I faced. And for our family, like what a thing to overcome, and to know my husband is to know that he is one of the strongest men who has ever lived. He is literally built like a strong man.
Absolutely.
But he also is he's just such a strong, faithful guy. And, the way that this has just built up his faith too has been amazing. And to see that grit, that's what we pray over the kids all the time is, Lord, just let this build up their gritty faith, give them a gritty faith.
So you get through that unbelievable experience. You said 3 years is what it took to be able to get back to be able to walk again? Yeah.
It was 3 years of inpatient therapy, outpatient therapy, some relapses, some setbacks. And it was a total of 3 years before I was able to walk without needing the chair on standby. So pretty long ordeal for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So you get through it. Then there's an opportunity that comes, right? You've been through all these trials and tribulations in your life and all these challenges, and you continue to maintain this unbelievable positive attitude, which I'm just awe-inspired sitting here listening to your story. But there's an opportunity that comes, which sends you to Arizona. Kind of talk about that.
Well, God's kind of funny, So, my whole life, I always said, here am I, Lord, send me. Here am I. That's always been my posture. And turns out he takes you up on it when you when you tell him that. So I had been looking for a job in a local area because, all our friends, all our family, as far as my husband, he's got 3 generations of his family in a 30-mile radius. Like everyone is right there, and we've just been through this huge life-altering ordeal where our church family was all of our support and our family, like all this stuff. And then God's like, here's an opening in Arizona. And I was like, no, thank you. That sounds hot. So I came on out and, Brad and I always say, there's no harm in having conversations, right? Always. Every opportunity, when there's an opportunity, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, and there's always something to be learned. So I came out, I had the conversations, and man, if I didn't feel like this was exactly where we were supposed to be. And every door just kept opening. I tried so hard. To shut the doors. I tried to find ripcords everywhere. I was like, no, it won't work because of this. And then it won't work because of this. And then God was like, boop, nailed it. Boop, took care of that one. And everything just kept falling into place. And we listed our house. It sold in a day. My husband got 4 different job opportunities, 3 of which were like dream jobs. He finally picked the one that he's at, which is he's working for TSMC, this big semiconductor corporation. He's a lead electrician on site already. He's already been promoted twice. Like, he's just thriving. Our kids get to go to school right on campus where I serve. So I get to see them out my office window when they're playing at recess. They get to have a stinking mountain in the background when they have reading time. Like, what life are they living? You know? And the final thing, though, on our way out was finding a house. And we couldn't find a house. And I don't know if you know anything about the market right now, but Ohio housing and Arizona housing are very different, vastly different. So we sold a home and we were like, yes, we're going to have a great down payment. And then we got out here. We were like, never mind. We're renting until the end of time. And I just remember 3 days before we were moving. So we bit the bullet. We said, yes, we're getting ready to come out here. And it's 3 days before the moving truck is coming to load us up. And we don't have a house. And I am just sobbing. I am, of course, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's a little foolish because after everything, like, of all people, I've seen God do miracles. They told me I wouldn't walk again. Here I am, right? Like, they told me I wouldn't have kids. I had kids. You know, I'm living proof that God does miracles. And I'm sitting there after he's opened all these doors to send me to this place that he wants me to come and serve. And I'm having a hissy fit, like, Lord, I don't have a house. We're going to be homeless. Like, oh, you know? And Brad's praying over me, as he does, in his amazing, calm way. And he's like, Lord, I just ask that you would, you know, give us the right connection to somebody in the church that would, you know, be a realtor or somehow find us the right house and let it be such a blessing. And, you know, and my phone goes ding. And he's like, oh, it's Austin, which is my lead pastor. Okay. And he's like, anyways, and then Lord, just help us to trust you and, like, let us just know that you're with us. And, you know, we're giving up control. We trust you. We know you've got this. Amen. Right. And so he picks up the phone. I'm still like ugly crying. He picks up the phone. Yeah, in case you missed that, that was.
Thank you, Kelly. Instant replay slow-mo.
Wanted to clarify for you. So he picks up the phone and he's like, you're never going to believe this. I'm like, okay. It's like, I just got a text from Austin, or you just got a text from Austin, and they have a friend in their small group class. They were just praying for you guys, for us, for our housing. And he said he has like 3 options he can show us, and he'd love to take care of us. And he's going to do it on, you know, off the cut, like for free. He's going to help you guys out for free. I'm like, what? No way. So as my husband is praying, help us find a connection, God's literally like, ding,
ding,
check your inbox, you know? So it was incredible. And then, of course, he found us the house, and the house that we're in now is amazing. We have this beautiful rock pool out back, a home that we would like, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Like, I never would have imagined. It feels like we're on a retreat every day. And the first week we moved in, our neighbors, it's a cul-de-sac. The neighbors came out. We were instant friends. We're all like family already. There was a rainbow over our house, a double rainbow the first week we moved in. I was like, God's promises are so good, you know? And it's just been phenomenal at every turn. And the church has been so welcoming. They've absolutely sucked us in and made us a part of the family here. And it's just been such a gift. It's been such a gift. And it feels like such an extra blessing after all that we've been through to have this gift of this place where I had a full year of being healthier. This week has been a little bit of a curveball. I was actually hospitalized a couple times this week and having some Yes. And I was like, I was a little nervous I was going to miss our podcast, but we made it through. Thank you, Lord. But so had some curveballs even just this week, but we had a full year of peace, of no new health issues, of this beautiful home and this new family out here and these friends. And man, even though my health is being a little rude right now because lupus is rude, but it's just been such a gift at every turn. And man, it's a wild ride. And I forget who said it. It might have been Pastor Steve a long time ago, but that, being a Christian doesn't make a good hobby, but it's a great lifestyle.
Yep.
And man, if that isn't true, like it is not an easy road. I mean, you will face all of it, right? You will face all of it. But man, when you know that you have a Savior with you who cares and who will keep you lifted up through all of it, it's all worth it. Every step of it is worth it because he's just so good. He's just so good.
Yeah, and that's what, when you were talking about moving and everything, who was your neighbor when you moved?
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, when I left? My best friend Kelly and her husband and kids.
Yeah, so
literally our very best friend.
So think about that, right? She's talking. I thought you were going to bring it up when you're sitting there going, I just thought about all these things. So Kelly and Justin, they're best friends. They're, that's her rock.
She's my soul sister. Yeah.
They sold the farm and moved to the next door neighbors to the Daniels. And so you want to talk about last night, I legitimately had a talk with our football team, and we've been doing these eagle mentality things, and a mom eagle will make the nest so uncomfortable that the little eaglets will leave the nest because that's how comfortable it is, and that's how they learn to fly. So I'm telling the boys, I'm like, you got to understand, in order to grow, you have to leave your comfort zone. Like, you're never going to grow in that comfort zone. You got to be able to leave the comfort zone. And how true is that for you, right? Like, what could have been more comfortable than having your best friend, Kimber, Keston, Justin right next door, Kelly, and then for you to answer that, I mean, that's everybody's dream, is live right next door to your best friend. Yeah. And so I just think about that. It was our
childhood dream. Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things, still to this day, if you talk to Kelly, she's like, yeah, I love God. He's a little rude though. Just a little.
I can see Kelly saying that too.
We got to have this perfect, our childhood dream came true. Our kids were best friends. Our husbands were best friends. We're still doing life together. We were living right next door. We got to do laundry together every day. We got to have dinner like 3 times a week. And then God's like, hey, let's move you across the country. Right. So that was definitely hard. And that's, there's something to be said too for finding the right people to be in your corner and to be your people, because even though that was so uncomfortable and even though that was so challenging, the first thing she said was, you've got to be obedient. You've got to go, Kel. You've got to go. And so, I mean, that's how you've got the right people in your corner, the right people standing with you no matter what you face, because even when it's going to hurt for them, and even when they know it's going to hurt for you, if they know it's what's right, they'll push you towards it. They'll push you to be better. And man, she is such a gift, and so are you and Lisa. Oh my gosh, you guys have been with us through the fires, and but God does like to let us get a little uncomfortable before we go do the things that we're supposed to do that we don't want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very, very true. Well, as we try to wrap this up here, Kelly, it's been unbelievable, but are there any closing thoughts or words of wisdom or advice that you can leave our listeners? You've given us so much, but is there anything that you'd like to leave someone with right now?
Man, I would say don't overlook the power of prayer. Prayer might seem like such a simple thing, and I know it's something that people often, throw out there really flippantly, and they'll be like, oh, I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking of you. And you're like, are you? But truly, prayer changes things. My kids are here because of prayer. I'm walking because of prayer. God is there, and he cares, and he wants to hear from you. Even when you don't know what to say, even when you're lost, even when you're having a crisis of faith, like, just, man, try it for a week and see what happens. Just give prayer a chance, because it will change things in your life. And I would just say the power of having a strong faith community. I know that might seem like a very, I don't know, token thing for the pastor to say, but the hardest moments in my life, from childhood to adolescence to adulthood, the church family is who supported my family and who supported us. And man, it is so powerful to see people show up and love on you in your darkest moments, and to celebrate with you in your greatest triumphs. And so, man, prayer, being in a faith community, and then, like I said, just surrounding yourself with people who will push you to be your best, push you in the right direction, surrounding yourself with people who have similar goals and values and priorities. It makes a huge difference, because you pick up what you're around. And so when you're surrounding yourself with people who love God and are working on their faith journey and who want to make a difference in the world, it makes it really easy to also want to do your best to bring the best to the world, to make a difference in the lives of people around you. And there's so much that I could say that I've learned over, all these years. But have grit, have grace, love people well, and just know that God really is who he says he is, and he will always show up.
That's amazing advice. And I got a whole list of quotes here, but there's one that just keeps, as you've been talking, this morning I'm like, there's going to be something that's going to come up, and it's going to trigger something in my mind. And the more you've been talking, this quote jumps out at me, and it's from Babe Ruth. Everybody knows Babe Ruth, not the candy bar, the baseball player. But this embodies you. It's hard to beat the person who never gives up. And I think if there's anyone who embodies that more, Kelly, it's you. Hearing your story is a true inspiration, I think, to anyone who listens to this. And seeing your friendship with Ben and their family, and hearing the story and watching videos of you going through all that you went through with your rehab to try to be able to walk again, and to think about that as a parent. I have 5 children, and that's not even anything that we talked about through that whole thing, where you're in the hospital and your husband's raising the 2 kids, and all you want to do is get back to being a mom and living your life, and here you are, probably one of the most positive people I've ever met, and haven't met through a phone call, and now through this encounter here. You are an inspiration, and you are in the right position for what you're doing and helping others and changing lives. And that's our whole purpose with this podcast, is to let people tell their stories of going through the fire. And, some people only go through one fire in their life, but Kelly, it seems like every year you're going through a fire. But look at the smile.
Put it on my tab.
Yeah, look at the smile. I mean, it's amazing. It's so amazing. So, with that being said, Ben, I don't know if you have anything to say in closing.
No, I just think, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. And I'm so proud to be your friend, and for God to put you in my life and Lisa's life. And we're just so blessed to have you in our lives. And one of the things I just keep thinking about is, each time that you had a trial and tribulation you went through, I'm just sitting there like Job, right? All throughout school, you're always in and out of the hospital dealing with medical emergencies. And then, you get assaulted, you're dealing with that. It's like, I'm just sitting here picturing, Job 2 coming out, and it's, God sitting up there like, who you want? Who you want to go after? And Satan's like, I want to go after Kelly. And then every time he tries to go after you, you're like, nope, I'm still going to praise you, God. I'm still going to praise you, God. Still going to praise you, God. And I mean, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I think that's the way what I try to do is whenever something happens to me or anything, or something bad's trying to happen, just view it as Satan's trying to attack you. And that's all, because honestly, there's always, you read the Bible, it talks about spiritual battles. It's always a battle that's going on, and, with spiritual battles. And I just feel like Satan's always trying to attack you in those ways. So whenever you have self-doubt or anything, just think of it that way, Nope, I'm going to praise you. And Kelly, you're the testament of that. And you're the definition of being tempered. And I'm just so thankful you came on.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. And yeah, you're talking about spiritual battles. Brad and I always say, we must be doing something right because Satan sure doesn't like us.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, Kelly, again, we thank you. And for all of our listeners out there who, continue to come and talk to you and I, Ben, about how impactful this podcast has been for people in their lives and hearing these stories. We ask that you like and you share and you subscribe and do all those things, because the only way this message gets out, especially with Kelly's story, is by people sharing. And so, again, Kelly, we thank you. We'll keep you in our prayers, and hopefully, it's amazing to hear you've been in and out of the hospital this week, and it's Thursday, and here you are smiling, telling your story. It's just awesome. We can't thank you enough.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. Truly, I'm honored and humbled to be a part of this. So thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. Stories matter, and stories make a difference. And so thanks for getting them out there, and thanks for thinking of me.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Go out and be tempered.
Hi, my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Catron's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Catron's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Catron's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636. Locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Catron's Glass, the clear choice.